Hi, I'm Movie Man. I'm an octopus who reviews movies, and today's review is going to be on. I knew this movie was coming out. I saw the trailer for this one that they put out. Also, I was generally looking forward to this movie. From the trailers, this just looks like kind of pretty fun, little action flick, being released for Valentine's Day. But kind of what was kind of a big thing getting me interested in this movie was the fact that of course it's being frontlined by none other than Quan. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce his name, but yeah, the guy is a really good actor, and it's safe to say that he has definitely come a long way. Of course, a lot of us will remember him from when he was a kid, and he starred in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and of course, he was in the Goonies as well, and he kind of left acting for a few decades after not really being offered many roles, but of course then God, nearly 3 years ago now, in 2022, he starred in the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once. And of course, that movie pretty much brought him back onto the map, Of course, Everything Everywhere All at Once was a big success. I'm pretty sure it's A24's highest grossing movie, but as well as that, it also got brilliant reviews. It won quite a few Oscars, including Best Picture, and yeah, it's generally considered by many as, one of the best movies of 2022, and honestly, probably one of the best movies of the 2020s decade so far. But yeah, of course, he was in that movie. I'd say to say that film pretty much gave him the comeback he needed. Of course, he actually ended up winning the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, and I'm sure a lot of you also remember the very heartfelt speech that he gave talking about his career and stuff, but yeah, now after all these years, Quan is finally, back, and like he's getting offered roles again, which is great to see. And now here he is in 2025 headlining an action movie. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is his first time ever, being the headliner for a film, which, we all love to see that. The only thing is, though, if only it was for a better movie. Yeah, I know I was kind of looking forward to this one, but I did see going in, the reviews for this film were not great to say the least. Like, I mean, I saw going in that Rotten Tomatoes was actually giving it a very bad score. I think they only gave this I think a 19% only. Yeah, this movie was not getting great reviews, to be honest. But nonetheless, I did, go in just hoping for the best. And I mean, I went to see this movie there last Saturday night, as of me recording this, the weekend of the movie's release. Now, having seen Love Hurts for myself now, I will say this: I don't hate this movie. Like, I wouldn't even say I really dislike it all that much. Like, I mean, to be fair, I do think Rotten Tomatoes is being quite harsh, only giving this like a 19%. Honestly, I think that is a bit harsh. Like, I can't really bring myself to hate this movie all that much, because to be fair, there's some kind of solid stuff in there. But with that being said, though, yeah, this movie's not great. Yeah, this movie is honestly pretty flawed. Yeah, but anyway, let's just get further into my thoughts. So in terms of the cinematography in the movie, the cinematography is alright for the most part. Like, this movie, it's not like amazingly shot. Like, the movie kind of does, have a bit of that, like, kind of, Netflix original look to it, I suppose, if you know what I'm saying, where, it kind of does, look like the average, like, action film that they just put on Netflix, each year. Kind of has a bit of that look to it. But I mean, I don't think it's horrible. Like, it's not a bad movie to look at or anything. But I will say, I think the cinematography in this film pretty much shines during the action scenes. I'll get more into this a bit later, but I will say that action scenes in this are honestly, pretty well shot, I will say. Like, they're actually fun to watch, and I think they are honestly shot decently. So I will say the cinematography is alright. It's not great, but yeah, I think the action scenes definitely, carry it and stuff. In terms of the film's editing, now, I gotta say, I think this is probably one of the biggest problems with the film. So I'll get more into this in a bit, but this movie isn't exactly too long. Like, I'll say this movie is not very long, but while watching this movie, I could kind of tell alright that, Universal kind of definitely, did want to edit this down a bit, because, like, while watching this film, it feels like there are kind of some scenes that are missing. Like, it feels like there are scenes that are kind of just, like, overlooked, like, that they just kind of awkwardly cut out of the film. Like, little, like, scenes for, like, how characters are kind of getting to different locations and stuff. But, like, yeah, honestly, it kind of does, make everything a bit awkward and stuff. Yeah, honestly, like, there's even, like, kind of, points, like, scenes will kind of just feel kind of awkwardly put together in terms of how they're edited, and, like, as I said, not to mention, like, with the amount of stuff that's going on in this film, like, the way we're cutting through everything happening, it honestly is, like, generally pretty awkward. And, like, honestly, but I will say, as I mentioned about the action scenes, The action scenes are pretty well edited. I forgot to mention this earlier. There's actually this one honestly cool shot where, like, you know, it's like from the perspective of inside a fridge. You'll have to watch the movie to kind of understand what I'm saying, but honestly, I'll admit that shot was honestly pretty cool. Because I do think the action scenes, they're well shot, they're well edited and stuff. Yeah, but like, also I do think those scenes really do, you know, kind of carry the editing for this one, because the action scenes aside, the editing in this movie is honestly kind of messy at times. Yeah, the action scenes are really the best parts when they're edited, but yeah, the editing is not great in this movie. In terms of the film's pacing, like, I mean, now I will say this movie is actually quite short. Like, this movie is literally only 83 minutes. Yeah, that's right. This movie is only 83 minutes. Like, I think that is easily going to be the shortest movie that I'm gonna watch all year. Like, last year, the shortest movies that I watched, it was a tie between two films, being Drive Away Dolls and Afraid. Yeah, both of those movies were only 84 minutes. But this movie, this is actually slightly beating them in terms of how short it is. 83 minutes. So yeah, this is easily going to be the shortest movie that I'm going to watch all year. Like, it'll be surprising if, like, another movie happens to come along and actually somehow manages to beat it. But, yeah, this movie is only 83 minutes. So yeah, I said, at least, like, you know, this movie's not too long. You're not going to be watching this movie for very long, but I will say, despite the short enough runtime, this movie can kind of, like, drag a bit in terms of its pace. Like, I know, I feel like the movie kind of seems to go at, like, a bit of a sluggish pace, like, in terms of its pacing and stuff. But I mentioned, like, with the editing, like, with the amount of stuff happening in this movie, the film's kind of just trying to balance everything, but, like, it just causes the movie to kind of drag a bit. And, like, I know I've already mentioned the action scenes and stuff, but, like, I will say, in this film, there's a few action scenes, right? But there's actually, like, a surprising gap between all these scenes, and, like, there's times throughout the film where, you know, they're kind of just going along with the scenes, and, like, you're kind of just thinking to yourself, like, are we just gonna have, like, another action scene already? Like, yeah, honestly, the movie wasn't really great in terms of all that. But yeah, I mean, I will say the action scenes when we get to them are fun, but, like, you know, the movie kind of does take its time in terms of actually getting to them and stuff. So yeah, overall, I have to say the pace in this movie is not great either. In terms of the film's sound and music, now, I'll say the sound effects, like, in some of these action scenes are actually alright, you know. They're pretty solid, you know. I mean, I think they work well, like, with the action scenes, and, you know, I mean, they're okay, they're basic, but, you know, you you go along with it and stuff. The film score, honestly, don't really have a whole lot to say about it. It's kind of just a very generic and kind of forgettable score, if I'm going to be honest, for a movie like this. Yeah, and there are, like, generally good songs that we do here in the movie, although I will say, the song Love Hurts, because there is actually a song called Love Hurts. That song is not in this movie. Like, you call the movie Love Hurts, and that song isn't in it. Like, come on, like, you're gonna call the movie Love Hurts, and you don't play Love Hurts in it, like, come on, what the hell? I'm kind of just messing with that, to be honest, but yeah, I don't really have a lot to say about the sound and music in this. Like, overall, it is just kind of generic, if I'm going to be honest. Getting into the characters and the acting now, we have our main character, Marvin Gable, and he's like this realtor, and who is, of course, a former assassin, and he wants to turn his life around and stuff, and he's trying his hardest, but of course, his past catches up with him and stuff. It's the kind of stuff that you've honestly seen, like, in so many other, like, action movies before it. Yeah, it is, kind of, like, just very cliche in that regard, but I will say, though, I honestly was able to, get behind Marvin as a protagonist, and that ultimately really does come down to, no surprise whatsoever, the performance from Quan. Like, along with the action scenes, he is without a doubt the best part of the movie. Like, without a doubt. Like, he's just so likable. He's just such a likable guy that you ultimately just do, end up getting behind him as a protagonist. You do root for him just purely based off of his likability and his charm and just wanting him to succeed. Like, I mean, if it wasn't Quan playing this role, I definitely don't think we would have been able to, like, get behind Marvin as a protagonist as much as we do. But because he's played by Quan, we're just able to, get with him. We're able to root for him. As I said, he's the best part of the film, He actually does well in terms of leading the movie. Like, again, if it was a lesser actor, you wouldn't have cared as much. But because it's him, you're able to get behind it. Like, I will say, in fairness to Quan, he honestly definitely carried this film, like, in terms of his performance, his charm, and as mentioned, during the action scenes, in fairness, since he actually pretty sure he is a stunt coordinator himself, he was able to kick a fair bit of ass in this movie. So yeah, he definitely did well leading the film. Now, another, like, kind of major character who the movie focuses on is Marvin's love interest, Rose. He left her behind, and she was supposed to be dead, because he was supposed to kill her, but, he let her go and told her to stay dead, but she's not staying dead, she's coming back from him and stuff, So another character we've just seen, like, a bunch of times before. Honestly, I wasn't really the biggest fan of Rose's character, and kind of just another, character we've seen a lot of times before, and also she's played by Ariana DeBose, who, I mean, she is a solid actress. Like, I mean, she hasn't exactly starred in, like, that many great films that I've seen. I mean, she was in Wish. She was in Craven the Hunter literally just 2 months ago. And now we have this film, which, I mean, to be fair, this movie's not as bad as those other films, but, you know, she doesn't, it seems she just doesn't have the best agent. But, like, I mean, yeah, there's also the fact that there's, like, you know, a bit of an age gap between her and Kei Kwan, which I know plenty of people will maybe a little, you know, weirded out by. But, like, I will say, her performance in this is not great. It's honestly a very OTT performance, but to be fair, I mean, at least she kind of does well in terms of actually making the character memorable. Like, the only reason I'll even, like, remember her character is just because of how OTT she is in this role. Yeah, she wasn't a great character either. Not a great performance, but admittedly kind of an entertaining performance. We have, like, a bunch of other, like, supporting characters in this. Like, a bunch of supporting cast members, like we have Daniel Wu, who plays Marvin's brother Knuckles, who is, of course, the main villain of the movie, and he's a fine villain, not a great one, but like, he's fine. Daniel Wu does well enough in the role. Like, really the main thing I'll remember this guy for is just how obsessed he is with, like, drinking, like, stuff with boba straws. Like, that's kind of his whole thing in this movie. Is just like, okay. Like, we also have in this, out of the supporting cast, we have Marshawn Lynch, who, trust me, he can be a solid actor. Like, if you've ever seen Bottoms, he is really funny in that movie. I really do enjoy him in Bottoms. And, like, in this movie, I will say, he is pretty funny in this, like, little role that he has. Like, him and this other guy, this other, like, goon, they're basically kind of like the goons for Knuckles. I will say, him especially, he is pretty entertaining in this supporting role. He does well with it, and him and this other guy, the actor's name is André Eriksen, the two of them are generally kind of entertaining, so, you know, at least, you know, there was that. Oh yeah, like, not to mention, there's also, like, this other henchman character, and, like, he gets into this, like, love subplot with, this woman who works for Marvin, and yeah, oh, this subplot is really, it's really just thrown in there for filler, if I'm gonna be honest. It's like, why did this need to be in the film? And yeah, also, Sean Astin has, like, a brief role in this, which I know many will be nostalgic for, because, I mean, it's a little reunion for him and Kei Kwan, because, of course, they were also in the Goonies together, and, I mean, he's okay for this little role that he has. Like, overall, the characters in the movie were not great, but, like, I will say, Kei Kwan, he definitely did carry the movie, I will say, and, like, sure, at least some actors like Marshawn Lynch at least kind of tried to make their characters memorable, so, yeah, overall, the characters are not great, but the acting is not bad, especially Kei Kwan, who does carry the movie. Now, in terms of the plot of this film, now, as I already said, the plot of this movie is one that you have honestly seen, like, many times before, you know. It's another one of these action movies where the main character is trying to, you know, just move on from their past, but their past is just coming back and they have to go back into the action and stuff, you know. It's just another one of these films that you've seen so many times before. Like, the movie is directed by Jonathan Eusebio, and apparently he's like a stunt man and like a stunt coordinator who he's actually done stunt work for quite a few kind of notable movies in the past, but this film is his directorial debut, and yeah, you can definitely tell because, like, compared to others like Chad Stahelski or David Leitch, former stuntmen turned directors, like, he definitely doesn't have the same directing prowess that those others do. Which, speaking of David Leitch, he's actually a producer of this film. Like, Jonathan Eusebio, he's definitely like not as good as the director as those two are. Like, as I mentioned, like, the plot is very generic and the execution isn't really that much better. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I will say there is some kind of decent comedy. Like, there are a few times in this where I did chuckle a bit, but I saw that there's a bit too much going on in the film, and like, not to mention like with how the movie's edited and stuff and how it's paced. Like, the movie is constantly just coming back and forth and stuff, and it's just like clunkily put together. But like, as I said, it's not all bad because there is some funny humor in it. I will say the action scenes, as I've already said, the action scenes were fun because with Jonathan Eusebio being a former stuntman, like, he is definitely a better stunt coordinator than he is a director. It's like, all these stunts, all these fight scenes, they are actually pretty fun to watch with how like violent they can get, and like, just seeing everyone punching and kicking and stabbing each other and stuff. It's fun to watch. As I said, Quan, he definitely does, carry the script here. But yeah, ultimately, with all that being said, the actual script itself just kind of brings it all down with, just how like generic it is, and just like, not to mention the fact that like, like in between these action scenes, like, there just kind of slugs along, and there's parts where like you're waiting for something interesting to happen. So like, yeah, the movie isn't exactly great in that aspect. Yeah, overall the plot of the movie wasn't great. The action scenes and Quan definitely carries it. In terms of the narrative structure, so we have our main plot with like Quan's character Marvin Gable being brought back into his past as a former assassin and stuff. Like, we have like all this stuff going on in the movie, like with him and Rose, which, not to mention, I didn't feel their chemistry as a couple, if I'm gonna be honest. I just couldn't care for their whole like love subplot. And you have all the stuff with him and Knuckles, and like, that's been just a bunch of like past stuff that happens before, this movie, where like, also I just feel like we're just not able to really care enough about, what happens and stuff. As I mentioned, like, there's even like a subplot where one of Knuckles' henchmen basically falls for this worker of Marvin's, and yeah, you can clearly tell that this subplot, is only in here just for a bit of filler, and like, it's not really that funny, if I'm gonna be honest. And like, even with how they try to resolve it and stuff, it's like we barely had any focus on it. Like, to be fair, the movie doesn't focus on it that much. You're just waiting for when the movie's gonna move on and get to the other stuff, yeah. As I said, like, this movie is definitely carried by quan and the action sequences, because, like, other than that, like, overall, this narrative structure is just not exactly great with how, it, tries to, tie everything in together. I do think, like, some of the editing definitely does kind of hurt it a bit. Yeah, overall, the narrative structure definitely just could have been better for sure. But yeah, overall, it's safe to say that I definitely, has a fair few issues with Love Hurts. Yeah, it's a generic plot. It's not exactly executed the very best. There's just a bit too much going on for you to really care about everything. It's kind of messily edited together. It's not paced very well. Yeah, this movie's overall just not great. But as I said, I can't really bring myself to hate this film, because that's not to say it's all just bad, because I'll say the action scenes are definitely the best part of the movie, along with Quan. But yeah, the action scenes do carry the film a bit, I feel. Like, they are pretty good action scenes, and it helps that both the director and Quan have worked in stunts and stuff. So yeah, there's good, like, action scenes and stunt work. There's some funny humor in the movie, and I will say some of that, the cast definitely do look like they're having fun, especially Quan, who, as I said already so many times, he does carry this movie. Yeah, honestly, this is definitely one of those films that's like, it was probably a fun movie to make, but ultimately the actual film is just not very good. Like, I don't hate this movie because of, some of those reasons I've mentioned. And, like, don't get me wrong, if you do want to just, turn your brain off and enjoy the movie for how it is, then I can see the movie kind of working in that aspect. But, I'll say, if these movies aren't exactly your kind of thing, yeah, then honestly, this one is not going to change your mind. So, yeah, this one probably won't be worth a watch. Like, again, like, I can see it being an easy watch for some, but ultimately, Quan and the action scenes are pretty much the reason why I'm rating this movie as high as I am. So yeah, ultimately, this film was a bit of a letdown, but I mean, as I said, it's not all bad. There was kind of an entertainment I did get out of it, so even though it wasn't great, I wouldn't say that I hated this movie either. So anyway, with all that said, I am going to give Love Hurts a 5 out of 10. So with that, I'll see you guys next time, and bye.